Gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of the Grand Boulevard Coalition. Grand Boulevard Coalition is a community-based organization that's focusing on underage drinking and drugging in the Grand Boulevard community. Let me first start by announcing some of our partners. The Institute for Positive Living, Reverend Maurice Coverson, Recovery 2000, Miss Izetta Walton, Centers for New Horizon, Miss Krista Hamilton, the Bronzeville Community Clubhouse, Mr. John Cook, Greater Harvest Missionary Baptist Church, the Reverend Eric Thomas, the Chicago Public Schools, and our representative is Mr. Lafayette Ford, and Third Ward Alderman Pat Dow. And so those are some of our community partners in the Grand Boulevard Coalition. This is a live show. 312-738-1060, 312-738-1060. And I am your host tonight, Bomani Obadeli, the big bad dude. That's what the cop said, that the guy Kutcher looked like a big bad dude. I mean, how ridiculous. So, yeah, I'm going to go there. And I know this show is really to talk about prevention of underage drinking and drugging in Grand Boulevard community. And this is also, I believe, a National Heroin Prevention Month, which is even another issue. And as I like to always say, in the black community, we don't have a heroin using problem. We have a heroin selling problem, which creates all the other problems like gang violence, like shooting, like drug wars, like the heroin highway off of 290 that they named, which again, which is affected in Garfield Park, the Austin community, North Lawndale. And so we want, even tonight, as I sit here, the mayor is gearing up for this great speech that he's going to have on violence. And I say this as a person who supported Mayor Rahm Emanuel for election. Where I realize that, and I know, like many of you, that we have a problem in this city with violence, right? And we have an issue with the police department. So there is, from my perspective, as a black man who live in the black community, who work in the black community, I realize that we have this internal, external battle that we find ourselves dealing with. However, with that being said, I think since excerpts of the mayor's speech has been leaked out, I think the mayor's off base tonight. And much of the outrage that you'll see up at Malcolm X College, because they're gathering, I mean, you know, there are folks outside screaming and hollering, and he's planning on giving a speech on the inside. And this studio is located in the heart of the West Side, so if you're driving down Jackson Street, you'll see it. But I think the mayor's off base, and I'll delve into that and tell you why. The mayor is going to talk about the 3 Ps. He's going to talk about policing, parenting, and prevention. And since he's going through the alphabets, and I believe in prevention. You know, I believe in prevention. I also believe that we've talked about this more strong parenting, right? But with the mayor, who has a bully pulpit, who has the arm's length of the federal government, county government, state government, he failed to mention economics. He's failing to mention mental health services, which he closed down some 15, 16 mental health clinics, which is a problem. He fails to mention trauma and the traumatization, which is the lingering effects of violence in the community. And then ultimately, since we're going through the alphabet, so we talk about the 3 Ps, how about the E for economics, the M for mental health, the T for trauma. But I think the one, and let's go with the first alphabet, A, accountability. There's accountability from the city government, the state government, from the community, from parenting. There has to be this great deal of accountability in our community. So I'm not going to start talking about blaming parents or talking about black men need to step up and be in their children's lives and be more responsible when they've never been taught how to do that. And you say, well, why should we teach people how? Well, when you start looking at racism, and let's be clear about this, and I know this is a kind of taboo subject that we don't like to deal with, but let's talk about it. Systemic, internal, external, strike that. Systemic racism over a period of years that have taken African American males out of the homes, who never held them to be, or I guess supported them in a sense to be accountable to their children, to the community. So we're only 2 generations removed from Jim Crow, segregation, and racism. We find ourselves in this place, in this very dark place, where we're asking for men to be more accountable, but we created an atmosphere that helps send them to prison in great numbers. So we talk about mass incarceration. We'll talk about get tough on crime, and the policies of the Ronald Reagan years, the policies of, and I'll say this, the Bill Clinton years, the mandatory minimums for drug dealing and drug selling. So then you release these nonviolent offenders and these men back to the community. Well, what jobs do they have? So you want me to be a father to my child that I never really had a relationship with no real support, no training, and yes, they need that level of support. Listen, I just told you starting out, this is Heroin Prevention Month, right? And I just also told you that black folks don't, and the numbers don't show that we have a heroin using problem. The numbers will show that we have a heroin selling problem in our community. But the federal government is giving the dominant culture resources and money to address. I mean, I listen to sports radio, and I'm going to get to your caller. Let me just say this. We got a caller on, I'm going to get to you. That I can't go every 5 minutes with a message about talking about heroin and heroin prevention and the kind of support mechanisms that are being put in place, and that the average heroin user is between the ages of 21 and 30, right? And they're white, and they got all these different programs and places where they can go to get help. So great, they can get help to overcome their addiction. But what happened to these guys that are fighting on corners over turf for selling the heroin, right? And what happened to the men once they're locked up and put in prison and then turned back out with no real skills? So there's no trade skills for them. We're turning out really functionally illiterate young people in our education system, and that's probably another alphabet that we're missing with the mayor's speech tonight, education. But so I can go on infinitum. Well, let's take some calls. We got a caller. Caller, you on the air.
Yes, the comment I want to make is I'm a former teacher, educator, and I will say in my real life experience, my ex-husband was a heroin addict.
Okay.
He comes up at a different time, and the issue that I found out in going to open meetings for 12-step, a lot of the people is the experimentation, like when they start off as teenagers, and then I do believe some people do have a tendency, based on their pain and suffering, to want to deal with their woundedness by using drugs. They get a good high. I've been around, having been with him, and being around others and going to 12-step meetings, but they get caught up. Some people are more addicted to those things than others. And nowadays, the new rise of heroin, our children are just caught up in a dilemma. And I would hope that our mental health professionals would come together outside of the buildings and form in the communities and community-based organizations themselves. I mean, we just have to stretch out and sacrifice somewhere along the line to help our own people.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, caller, and thank you for your call. I agree with you. So listen, I'm not coming on and saying, and I should add say that black folks don't use heroin, because of course we use it. But I'm talking about in proportion as it relates to the numbers and the effects that it is shown that the overabundance users of heroin and then the detrimental effects from the usage of heroin are young white people. Now, on the other side, there are black folks who shoot it up and who snort it. I'm not saying that they don't, but it also shows that we are the proprietors. Now, there's no heroin growing fields in Austin or North Lawndale, so the heroin is coming into Chicago from somewhere, and we're selling it. And so, and when you talked about mental health, we just don't have those Listen. You tell me, caller, where outside of HRDI, and I think Bobby Wright is still around, I don't know any more mental health facilities in our community. I'm just going to be frank with you. And so, that is an issue since the city closed down several of their mental health facilities. And so I think for the mayor, again, I just think that you got to think this thing through. I know that there is political expedience and political pressure and community pressure that is being placed on him, because at the end of the day, he is the leader of this city. The vast majority of the people did elect him or re-elect him to be mayor. So I understand that. But I also think that as a leader, as a mayor, he should come to the community groups and start having dialogue and discussions with them, and perhaps they will give him some greater input. Like I told you guys 2 weeks ago about a friend of mine telling me about a 12-year-old robbing him at gunpoint. I know y'all thought that was far-fetched. Well, this week they've arrested two 12-year-olds. One 12-year-old up in the Gold Coast, young, African-American. I don't know how they charge him with a felony charge of 12, but that's another story. And then this young 12-year-old out in Roseland who was with a 15 and 16-year-old who broke into this woman's house. In fact, they according to the young people, again, and the police, they targeted this woman and raped her and robbed her. I caution to believe that, and I'm not saying that it's not true, because a friend of mine said he was robbed by a kid that he thought was 12, and I believe him, because there are 12-year-olds now that are out in our community that are walking around carrying guns. That's just a fact. So I don't come on to pontificate and just say things. I live in the black community. I walk the streets in the community. I talk to young people. I talk to business owners. And being a part of the community, there are things that you learn where there are people who sit in offices all day and never get on the street, would never know about what's happening in our community. And therefore, they have no plan, no real plan, because you cannot devise a plan to deal with a problem or issue if you're not in the community. And that's what makes this Grand Boulevard Coalition very powerful as we're dealing with, as we're trying to address the issue of underage drinking and drugging in the community. Just to go back to the issue of heroin again, there's no great deal of advertisement or a media strategy or a intervention strategy as it relates to dealing with our young people who predominantly use marijuana, who smoke it in all kind of facets. This loud hydroponic marijuana, who pop these pills they call Molly. I mean, who drink this liquid codeine mixed with Sprite and grape soda that they call lean. So we're dealing with a different kind of effective drugs in the urban setting, in the urban community. And outside of this DFC or SAMHSA, I just don't see the urge or to try to address it. So even tonight, again, as the mayor and some community folks are gathering pro and con of the mayor's speech, I do think the mayor needs to say something. So I'm not against the mayor speaking out about the violence in our community and about responsibility. But damn it, I am tired of being lectured to. I rather see myself as a partner, right? And as a parent. And so I feel the pain of the mother whose son, the 14-year-old over there in Garfield Park, that was stuffed into a garbage can, shot in the head and set on fire. So I understand where people are coming from as it relates to the violence in our community. But I think we have to have conversations. And we got a caller. Caller, you on the air. Or dialogue.
I really think that, hello?
Go ahead, sir.
I think that really we got to really start focusing in on at the root of the problem rather than just the symptoms. I mean, getting more police and whatnot has been tried over and over again. That's not the solution. The solution is to talk about having some family therapy in particular as far as the dysfunctional families in the black community, and really to get down to talking about strengthening the black family. That's where the problem is. I don't know why they keep jumping around it.
Well, listen, thank you for your call. I would agree with you. But that goes back to us dealing with mental health. And again, I'm going to say this again to you. They're outside of HRDI and Bobby Wright. And I don't know many other organizations that are offering comprehensive mental health counseling or family support services in these communities. And remember, I talked about last week the 6 communities that where all of the vast majority, probably 80% of there's no probably to it. 80% of the violence as it relates to the African American community is coming from. And so we are at a tipping point. And I don't think we have to have all hands on deck to deal with this issue. And I would agree with you, caller. We cannot tiptoe around it. So like I said, I think the mayor has to say something. But he's got to do more than say something. He's got to do something. Listen, the mayor is very powerful in his level of connections, to Washington, D.C., to the entertainment sector, through his brother Ari Emanuel, who managed, several of these Hollywood stars. What I'm saying to you is that there's great reach out there. And the mayor raised, $49 million in 8 months for his own anti-violence private program. Now, which I don't know who they funded, who they gave the money to. And I know they were talking about evidence-based programming. Well, what programs did you fund? And where did they fund them? Because obviously it did not get into Inglewood, it didn't get into South Shore, it didn't get into Roseland, it didn't go into Lawndale, West Garfield Park, and Austin. It didn't go in those communities, because if it did, then I wouldn't be sitting here ranting about the situation week in and week out. But we got a caller. Caller, you on the air.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, but you got to turn your TV down because there's no feedback.
Yeah, my voice is gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me 1 minute.
Sure.
1 minute. Could you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. I was calling because you said something about Bobby Wright. Well, I've been going to Bobby Wright for like 3 years. Only thing, I'm not talking against them. They do try to help. But what the community really needs, instead of doping us up, just giving us medication, we can vent out. But what we need, like, I'm old school. We need, like, social centers. I talk to these young men every day. I come from the streets. I'm going to be honest. I have a testimony. I'm a living testimony. These guys do not want to do wrong out here. I go to the corners by myself. Some of me and my cousins, we talk to these brothers out here. They do not want to be in the streets. People out here is crying out for help. I wish I could be like a Houdini or an octopus. We need jobs. We have felonies and we can't get a job. They're going to put us in the suburb, and like I have a slip disc in my back, I want to work. I can't work because I have a felony, and then they giving us the slavery jobs at the factory. What more do we do? And I'm going to be honest with you, just a month ago, I got in some trouble because I didn't have a job, and I was going to get put out, me and my 2 kids. And I did something wrong, I'm going to be honest, because I already repented to God, and now I'm fighting the case. Just because I'm trying to save, my house, my apartment, and it's sad. And I've been crying out for help, I go to church, I have a church family, but I just got caught up. And we need help. Reverend Meeks can't do everything ourselves. I'm from the west side. It's some preachers trying to do what they can do, and I clap my hands. but we need National Guards.
No. You don't need no National Guard. Well, thank you for your call. Hey, listen, I listen. Thanks for your call, and let me just say this to you. I feel your pain. I feel it. I feel your pain, and I understand. And I'm glad that you're going to Bobby Wright. Keep going. I do believe that you can get the help that you need over there, and there are many people like you who are suffering. Let me just say this to you. What we don't need is a National Guard. What we do need is what you mentioned in your second conversation, caller. You need a job. You need access and a pathway to employment for you to be a citizen, to take care of your children so your children can see their mother going to work, they can see their father going to work, and see you being a productive citizen in your community. And I thank you for going on the street corners trying to talk to the brothers and the sisters that are out there that are just like you. And I would agree with you. I would agree with you that we need to have access to employment, but you also a reason why we need to have services like Bobby Wright mental health centers, and we need to have the HRDIs in our community, and we need more. The city needs to reopen those mental health clinics in their community that they closed. Now, if they're going to charge a penny for, and I don't have a whole lot of time, but I'm just giving solutions. If you're going to raise the sugar tax, right? No, what we need is a transaction tax on stocks, right? And that money should go to pay, first of all, help pay the teacher's salary, because we need good teachers, right? And then secondly, we need to get into the prevention side of providing and opening up those mental health clinics. Again, if you're spending $2 million in overtime, and you have a sheriff of Cook County who's saying that he runs the largest mental health facility, and I'm talking about Cook County Jail, well, clearly you understand that you have a problem. People are being forced into criminality. But damn it, there's cranes all up and downtown, and there are other people working, and it doesn't look like the people who live in this city. And that's the problem, Mr. Mayor. That's the problem, average alderman. There are people in your community that need to be working, and we need to provide jobs and job training. Listen, you can take one school in every one of those communities that close and turn them into trade centers to teach people trade, to get them prepared. If you're talking about building the second largest high-rise building in this nation, and you're going to create 5,000 jobs, well, who's going to work? Where are they coming from? All right, we got a call. Caller, you on the air.
Yes, sir. You hit my point. People don't want to stay at home and do nothing. People don't want to go out there and put something in their arm. They want to go to work. And with this mayor here in this city, with all them buildings going to go up pretty soon, not one African-American and not one Hispanic construction company got a job. So guess who's going to be in the streets? Guess who's going to be putting something in their arm? And guess who's going to hire 25,000 more police? The mayor that doesn't want to help his own people that he's supposed to own. 60% of both the black and Hispanic people voted for him. And if they vote for him again this time, then, shame on them. Yeah, well, I voted. And listen, full disclosure, I voted for the mayor. And thank you for your call. Let me just say this to you. I'm not totally blaming Rahm Emanuel for 22 years of, listen, he inherited administration and a deficit. Now, I'm saying that he's not listening, is what I'm saying to you. He's not listening to the right voices, obviously. But I will say this. A lot of the problems that Rahm Emanuel faced with, he inherited. And I don't have time to go into it in this show. I'll use that for another time. But you had another mayor that was here for 20-something years and ran this city into the ground, and the same issue existed. But the difference is, under the previous superintendents, you had stop and frisk, whether they would acknowledge it or not. They had this crime reduction strategy where they were pulling black folks over, giving them tickets for any other kind of reason. And they did get guns and find guns. They had the broken window theory and all those things which were unconstitutional, which led to a spike in, before you had the police cameras, of a lot of police engagement of death. So we can go in and I can go on infinitum about the issues. But again,
you know, this has been another great show, the Grand Boulevard Coalition show. I'm sorry, callers, I couldn't get to all of your calls. You know, it's very emotional, very disturbing at where we are today in the community. That's what I just want to say that. And these are some tough times, but I'm saying it's all hands on deck to begin to solve these issues and problems. And again, thank you. And if you want to reach us, 312-420-5582, 312-420-5582. You've been watching the Grand Boulevard Coalition show. Until now and next week, God bless.